Hi, everybody. Okay, this is week 3 processing. We processed those adorable little old British people. Hopefully, that got your mind off of the craziness going on in the world right now for at least 13 minutes. Okay, so the first question I had, which is unrelated, is the sign for Czechoslovakia. I don't know the sign for Czechoslovakia. It actually is a country that no longer exists. And so back in 1993, according to my Google Home right here, I just asked it. In 1993, Czechoslovakia became the Czech Republic and Slovakia. And so the sign for Czech Republic is this. I don't know the sign for Slovakia. And there may still be an old sign. There probably is an old sign somewhere for, what is that? For Czechoslovakia, but I don't know what it is. Sorry, useless. Okay, all right, first sentence I have here. How many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentences all together. Here we go. The first one is, apart from the war and the time I was at college, I've been there all my life. And so the sentence before this, he says, he names the city that he was born in. And then he says, apart from the war and the time I was at college, I've been there all my life. Okay? And so to me, that means that at this city, he's lived there his whole life, but he did go away to the war and he did go away to college. And so, but aside from those 2 times, he's been there. And so that might be sign. So we have the city set up in space here. And you might even see it as here, although he does say there. So I don't know if he's in the city when he's recording this. I don't know why he's using the word there instead of here. So I'll just use there. Okay. So anyway, the city that he was born in, this might be signed, okay? And of course, there are lots of different ways to interpret that sentence, but if you don't use your timeline, especially this timeline very often, you may try to practice that sentence and incorporate that timeline for your own practice. Next sentence. I think I've done all that I wanted to do as long as I can be helpful and keep going. Is that what he says? Let me just go. I'm going to just pull up the thing right now because I feel like I'm missing a part of this. I know it's right at the beginning. There it was.
I think I've done all that I wanted to do. As long as I can be helpful and keep going.
And that's what he says. Okay, so as long as I can be helpful and keep going. Okay, so I think I've done all that I wanted to do as long as I can be helpful and keep going. So to me, what that means is any sort of goal that I've had or any sort of dream that I had, I've done it. Okay. And so right now, all I'm trying to do is help other people and just keep going, just keep proceeding with my life. All right. So that might be signed something like, something like that. Okay, next one. Okay. So talking about his wife, one of them says, we did have problems, but we got through them. We did have problems, but we got through them. And I think nowadays people give up too easily. Okay. Sorry, my notes here are just horrific. So I'm trying to separate things out. Okay. with this one, if you're using the sign relationship, make sure you're having consistent space. So you wouldn't want to say my relationship and then set up the wife there. So you'd want that set up and consistently sign this relationship, this connection between two people, consistently between where you have the wife set up instead of going to neutral space. And so this could be sometimes, I mean, like, okay, so my wife being there, our relationship, problems came up, of course. And this is a sign that means of course. Some people don't like that sign, think it's a little bit Englishy, but I kind of like it, so it's up to you. You could sign yes instead of course if you don't like the sign of course. So again, okay, what's the rest of it? We've had our problems. Oh, gosh, we did have our problems. Oh, but we got through them. Yes. And then we got through them. So that could be signed something like, okay, two of us continued, and then you can sign this together all the way forward. Then we have the next concept, which is, and I think nowadays people give up too easily. So okay, so that could be it. That's good. See that my head to show the immediacy. It seems that couples get married. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, next one. I've had a relatively easy life, even with the RAF 5 years of war. Okay, so the RAF is the Royal Air Force, and so what he's saying is, my life hasn't had many hardships, not many struggles, not a whole lot of problems. I was even at war, and that was fine too. Okay, so be careful with something like this, that you don't sign my life was fine, or my life, the part about the life being good, I'm not going to put signs here, the part about the life being good, and then say, but I was in war. Because he's not contrasting these two ideas, right? But is a contrast. If he said, my life was relatively easy, but I did have that war, oh, that was awful, right? But he's not saying that. He says, even with the RAF 5 years of war. So he's incorporating this time of war as even being still pretty fine, okay? And so that might be signed, sorry, I'm not going to do that because he's not emphasizing how long it was. So just, this sign means, I gloss this sign as hard knocks, which means, going through stuff in life. Going through stuff in life, the tribulations that we all deal with. So, and so I'm doing this to show relatively easy. He didn't say he had no problems, but kind of like, not so much, not too bad, not so much, not too bad, okay? And then the war part. Now, some of you may wonder why I'm choosing just to sign Air Force instead of signing RAF, or instead of fingerspelling the Royal Air Force. Again, I want to use that again. I guess it's fine to spell it out or to say RAF, but I don't think that his message here is really about, the name of the type of Air Force that he was in. I think signing Air Force is important. That's a more significant supporting detail. But I'm just choosing not to do this, and in real life, I probably wouldn't say RAF, and I certainly in real life wouldn't spell Royal Air Force. And again, just because this isn't a thing about like all the different types of military in the UK, all of these specific things. If it were, then of course the Air Force would be, the RAF would be important, and being very clear about what that is compared to the other branches, etc. But in this case, he's just talking about how sweet his life is, and so I would just sign Air Force. It's my opinion. Okay, so back to the sentence. So not hard, right? So the whole sentence might look like this. It's kind of just like, my life was just in general not that bad. Okay, next sentence. It was an adventure more than a penalty, even amongst the bombs, right? So he even continues talking about how he kind of liked being in war. It was fun for him. He wasn't, he didn't feel like he was dragged there. He was forced there. He kind of liked it. So that might be signed, maybe that. I added this in the moment and it felt right. So once again, topic, war. Force me, must go. Not sign, not. So that sense of adventure on my face? Like, ooh, this is kind of like exciting. Ooh, fun. I think that does show that, even though the eyes that I just made, they were like kind of creepy eyes, so don't make creepy eyes. Make fun, excited, adventure eyes. Okay, the next sentence is, okay. This section makes me almost emotional, but I won't start crying for you guys. But he says around 10:16, he says, I didn't do the right thing by my father. I admired him very much, but I never said anything. So to me, this sentence is specifically referring to the story that he previously told. And I find this emotional just on a personal note because it's so sad to see somebody over 100 years old and he did this one thing, this one thing that he just cannot let go of, this one sort of disrespect to his father, where his father, he was sick and his father drove all the way down to the college to pick him up, to bring him back home. And when he got there, the guy who's talking, the son, was like, oh, I want to stay here with my friends. I don't want to go with you. And the dad drove all the way there and he's like, nah, I don't want to go with you. And then he had to drove all the way back home. And he still feels bad about that moment. And the reason why I think that this is specifically referring to that thing, I didn't do the right thing by my father. I think that the right thing, meaning that thing, he's talking about this specific thing that he did. I didn't do the right thing by my father. I think he's talking still about that specific moment. So just, that's my take, okay? And then again, I admired him very much, but I never said anything, okay? Okay, so to me, I didn't do the right thing by my father is still talking about the whole situation, and what she says he regrets that whole thing. And then again, he's still talking about it. I didn't do the right thing, so I might say simply that. And again, just because we were coming off of those sentences where he, talks about his feelings about it in depth, so he's still talking about it. Okay? I was wrong. Then we had the next chunk of meaning. I admired him very much, but I never said anything. And the dad might already be set up in space at this point if you were interpreting all of this, but for the sake of this, I respect him, I admire him, or I looked up to him, and but I never said anything. And because this is so poignant, and maybe it's more poignant to me because I have my own parent issues, but I really feel compelled to interpret this in a very poignant way. And so the way I choose to show this is, after assigning this, I would do something like maybe or disappoint at the end. I just added that, but I think that works. So I'll do the whole thing again. Maybe? Okay, next one. Last one. I've got beautiful, is that the last one? I've got beautiful memories. You know, I can live happily forever after because of my lovely memories. Okay? Okay. One thing with this interpretation is this is the sign memorize, not really memories. Again, would somebody, would it be understood potentially, but grammatically and semantically, I don't know. It's really not it's not really memories. It's the verb to hold it into your mind. The verb to hold it in your mind, as opposed to the noun memories. Okay, so just something to consider there. Okay, so I've got beautiful memories. So when I look back on my life, there's so much there that makes me happy, makes me feel fulfilled. I can live happily ever after. Actually, she says, I can live happily forever after because of my lovely memories. And so to me, that means that all she needs to do is to reflect on these memories, to think about these things that happened, and that is all that makes her happy. You know, like that'll make her happy for the rest of her life, essentially. And even as I'm talking through this, you could I'm going to do something a little bit differently than this, but you could say, like, you know, you could even look at that. You could even use a timeline like we did earlier. You could say, like, and then you can go back, like, forever. Okay, that's one way. I just thought of that way, but I have a different way here. You could also do, so you remember all of these things. Okay, or this the whole time, all the way, or, you know, until this or this. Either one of those can work. So something like that. Okay, if you have any questions or comments or thoughts about any of that, please feel free to contact me to have a discussion about it. I look forward to having that discussion. Have a great weekend. That's it. Bye-bye.